All right, dudes, we are live again with another Pangburn Hangout. How y'all doing? It's Saturday. That means it's Deniability Day. The Pangburn philosopher from South Africa, Deniability, will be leading a conversation on the wacky tobacco, man, on marijuana. As a little extra fun test, I'm going to start this stream without having any marijuana in my system while I'm playing chess and engaging in this conversation. And then at let me check something here. And then at some point I will head out and have a few tokes, and then come back and see how my skills maybe decrease or increase on the chessboard. But yeah, I hope you're all good. Those of you who do see this, we all know YouTube hates us, so they're not going to show this live stream to any of our subscribers. You guys have to hit the notification bell if you want to get notified when we do go live. I'm just waiting for Deniability to come on, so I will start with playing some chess. I'm just going to see. I'm going to send him a message because he is late. Just make sure he's alive. See, it's that weed, you know. You still alive? Yeah, we'll get into some chess first, but yeah, tell me about your guys' experience with marijuana. Has it been a positive one? There's a lot of people out there that are going to say it makes me tired, or it makes me anxious. You're smoking the wrong strands, people. And you really shouldn't. It's not good to smoke anything, honestly. It's better to use marijuana in edible form. I am bad in that I do smoke it most of the time, if I'm being honest. I do like it in edible form, but I don't know. I like smoking it. Let me know what your experiences have been. I would say marijuana has improved my well-being by about 100%. I would say. It really helps. So I have a imbalance between my parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic one is the high alert one. Your parasympathetic nervous system is the de-stress one, and mine is like, mine are at these levels. Here's my parasympathetic nervous system. Here's my sympathetic. The antidepressant I take basically brings things up to here, a manageable level, but I still get really bad tension headaches because these things are not in balance. But the marijuana, because it does act on the nervous system, really does get me in line, which is an amazing feeling for my body. Like it's a really good thing. So yeah, I would say my general well-being, it's allowed me to like be able to sit and absolutely clear my head of what's usually a cacophony of different, ideas and thoughts and things that are shooting into my head. It really helps me meditate, achieve, a clear mind state. So yeah, it's been like a huge benefit to me in my life. So yeah, I'm going to make sure I unmute on Discord here. Okay, and if deniability doesn't show up, we can we can still do some chats. But if you guys have any questions about marijuana use, drop them in the chat here. We can do some research while we're hanging out as well. And if you want to challenge me to a chess game, you can go to chess.com. My username is just Travis Pangburn. I've suffered some losses recently, so my rating is just shit. I kind of want to start again, start a new profile, and just kind of start from scratch, because there's a lot of history built into this. Whoa, okay. So now I've got a message saying your stream is not being shown. What? I just got a strange message from YouTube saying that there are some major changes happening to your channel. And then I had to click a bot verification thing. What the fuck? This is turning into a comedy of errors. Yeah, like wowzers. Here, let's adjust. I wonder if it's because like it's marijuana as the topic. Yeah, I really don't know. That's strange. Well, anyways, we'll get into some chess. Hang out for a bit. We'll see who joins up. And yeah, like I said, we'll do that. We'll do that little test of. I'll play some chess first, see how I manage, and then we'll put a little bit of marijuana into my system and see what happens. But it looks like YouTube's not going to show this live stream to any of our subscribers. I don't know what that notification was, but it literally popped up and was like, please confirm that you are not a bot. Is it because I'm running a VPN or something? Like, does it not want me doing that? What if I turn off my VPN? This is strange, folks. Well, whatever. We'll just see what happens. Let's get into a game here. So I turned off the VPN. Let's see if I don't know if YouTube has a thing where you're not allowed to stream with a VPN on, but see now people are coming in. Okay. So I had my VPN on, and all of a sudden YouTube was like, we think you're a bot. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not a bot. Yeah, hit that like button, folks. We're talking about marijuana today. Tell me about your experiences. I already talked about mine. What do I want to do here? Do I want to get freaky on the? I'm gonna go there. Yeah, YouTube's been like weird. Yo, how's it going?
Have a good chat.
Yeah, are you jumping on the plane?
Yeah, pretty soon. I'm almost home, so that's good.
Yeah. Whereabouts you heading?
Well, I was in Tampa all week, so I had to wake up super early to get on the plane, and then now I'm in Seattle heading back home.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to think I'd been ditching you guys. I've been busy all week.
No,
so
I get it. I get
really looked at the.
I get it. You hate us. It's perfectly clear to me now.
No, I'm just trying to live life, and
it's a grind, isn't it?
It is. So, alrighty, I'm gonna listen while I can, but I didn't bring it. I accidentally packed my earbuds, so.
And you didn't bring weed for everyone, did you?
Well, yeah, I don't partake in that because I can't for work.
Yeah, right.
Not that I haven't.
Yeah.
Ooh, I hope that's not recorded. Well, anyway.
It's all right. No one knows who you are.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. There's a few people that do.
Yeah. Well, One of these days, we're just going to have to come out with it and be like, this is who you are.
Yeah, we'll wait until I retire. Give me 3 years.
Exactly. Wow, 3 years. That's exciting.
Well, no, I could have done it 3 years ago, but I got to hang on. I got some stuff to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, got to be a mover and a shaker.
Hell yeah.
Anywho.
All right, have a great flight.
Enjoyable, and give deniability a hard time. He needs it.
Oh, of course I will.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That was Zombie Killer Chick stopping in to say hi. Okay, what do I want to do here? I'm probably going to pin... Do I want to do that? I go here. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's good. Everyone's out getting their sun today. It's really sunny here in Vancouver. It's a good day to blaze, man. Kraken 28, how's it going? Yeah, YouTube's being funky today. They're not really showing anyone anything, so hopefully we'll get remonetized here, or at least a review, because yeah, it's it is what it is. I'm going to go there. Yeah, we've been almost 7 months here without a review for our monetization by YouTube. I've been pretty damn patient. YouTube tweets at me, yeah, we hope you get a review soon. Sorry for this, that you've waited so long. And I'm like, dude, it's you guys. Like, can't you tell me if I'm going to be getting a review? Like, what the hell? I'm going to snipe this guy's night again. I hate nights. I want to eliminate all nights. So let's see. This obviously isn't going to be a perfect test because a lot of it has to do with who my opponents are. But my brother got his someone from the Ukraine accessed his credit card or something. Fuckers. But yeah, after a couple games, I'll go smoke a bunch of weed and then come back and see how it affects my ability to concentrate. Yeah, so we're so far a no-show from Deniability, who's going to be running this conversation today. Unless I read it wrong. Did I read the time wrong? Like, speaking of marijuana day, maybe I just, smoked too much marijuana. Let me just check the schedule here. Yeah, no, cannabis this Saturday at noon Pacific time. Yeah. So, oh. No worries, brother. He sent me a message. He's like, "Oh shit." Let's see if he jumps on here.
Sorry, I didn't see the time there.
No worries. It's actually it's kind of hilarious that happened on Marijuana Day. It's like, it's all good, man. But what I've kind of so far announced is that I'm going to play some chess and engage in the conversation for the first bit here, and then I'm going to go and smoke a whole bunch of weed, and then come back to see how it affects my performance.
It's definitely going to affect your performance.
Oh yeah, like I'm so terrible. Like when I smoke weed, like trying to do any kind of like competitive game or sports, it like just kills that in me.
I suppose it depends on the strain.
Yeah, 100%.
Most of them have that effect. Most of them seem to have that effect, though.
Yeah, definitely. And that was something I was talking about earlier, where people will always be like, "Well, weed makes me tired, or weed gives me anxiety," and I'm always just like, "Well, how many strains have you tried?" Because I almost can guarantee that I will find you a strain that does what you're kind of seeking medicinally.
Yeah, that well, not even medicinally, but just for enjoyment.
Oh,
I
sure,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I have a strong preference for marijuana over alcohol
Oh, me
because
too now. Yeah,
um, the it just seems to be more of an enjoyable experience. I find I just don't enjoy being drunk. It's out of control. It's hazardous. It's hazardous to me. Hazardous to the people around me.
yeah. I definitely I agree, man. Like, first of all, for me, it's like it takes a lot of alcohol to actually get me drunk, and with weed, it's just like a little bit goes a long way for me to reach a really deep level of relaxation. Like,
Don't worry. Do it for long enough, and the tolerance comes.
yeah,
It's,
yeah, and
but
I am, I've really only been like smoking for like a year, so
yeah, I've been smoking for coming up on 20 years this year
amazing,
now, actually.
amazing.
Um, and pretty much every day for the last 10 years. And my tolerance level is so high that I need to swap a strain every 36 to 48 hours or so,
Wow,
because it doesn't matter how much I smoke after that. Unless I change the strain, it won't get me high.
amazing. And yeah, it's like some of these guys who are pretty famous for smoking a lot, like Snoop Dogg. Um, they claim to smoke like a pound a day.
Yeah, I can see that
That's
happening. Hard in
incredible.
the lungs. I don't know if
Oh God,
I prefer to swap strains, but like they generally tend to like smoke two or three like quality strains, and
yeah,
they
right,
have the money to just smoke more and more and more and more. And
right.
I prefer this to be kinder to my lungs.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, yeah, yeah. I actually met Snoop Dogg. I was managing a big concert venue in Vancouver here, and he came up to do a show, and one of the prerequisites on his rider was the best BC bud money can buy, which was pretty amazing. Actually,
It's
his I actually built kind of a long lasting relationship with as a friend with his like main bouncer that was there. He's this
okay.
yeah, and he was like the most chill, like cool guy. Um,
Must be a very cool posse to hang around.
oh yeah, definitely. They
Um,
like such a chill environment. Like you could hear a pin drop in those backstage rooms, which is so much different than like being like in a Kid Rock backstage setting, which is just
mm,
like madness drinking, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and even I find some alcohols I even enjoy if I enjoy much more if I blend it with marijuana. But you gotta smoke first and then drink.
Yeah.
If you
Or
drink first and then
yeah.
smoke, it's bad.
Or for listeners of this channel, like the backstage environment of Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, like what a shit show. Sam Harris running all over the place, tripping on acid, and fucking Jordan Peterson just like doing some Molly in the corner.
I mean, I suppose music you can perform while inebriated.
I never could,
But
For me, like
I
as a musician, I never could.
really,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I like, especially drinking. Like I just my music sense of like being like a pitch bitch like that kind of goes out the window, so then I'm always afraid, like, am I getting too loose with my vocal, like the piano, I'm not, it's like, second language, not so worried about that, but it's my singing voice where I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to be that drunk idiot who's like missing some of the fine tunes, finer tuned notes in some of my vocals. Like I always, that kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, I think vocals is probably the one area you could pick it up. And you actually notice it at some big concerts where when you go in, particularly like the heavy metal bands,
Yeah,
that's there's that whole like sort of vibe around getting wasted before the before, during, and after,
yeah.
essentially.
Do you know who's the worst
Um,
for that? Is uh, what's his name with Guns N' Roses? Um,
Axel
yeah,
Axel
Axl
Rose.
Rose. Oh my god, man! If you see some of his
Mm.
like later vocal performances, he's singing out of tune. Like he sounds like Meatloaf out there. It's
Mm.
it's pretty crazy, and I think there is this kind of like romantic idea of being like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. But I think like in almost all of those cases, I'm like, yeah, you overdid it. Like you didn't have to be that blasted. Like I get having like a bit of substance in you, kind of like Neil Young. Um,
Mm.
but like, yeah, to go too far with it, I think is just like you're getting blasted for the sake of getting blasted.
And it takes a huge toll on your body.
Yeah, man.
Like I've enjoyed my experimental use of a broad spectrum of drugs, but the the how can you phrase it, the cost benefit doesn't really play out too well. Um,
Right,
Except I find with hallucinogens and marijuana. Hallucinogens, you can't really get addicted to them.
right,
There's no reliable experience to get addicted to. And then marijuana, because while you can get addicted to it, the sort of um, the negative effects of getting off of it and going cold turkey are next to nothing. Like you have insomnia for like 2-3 weeks, and that's about it. Um,
that sounds terrifying.
yeah, like,
Yeah, I do
so like
not do good if I don't get my like regular sleep. Like my mind turns to shit. Like
yeah, I think you do eventually get sleep. It's like 2-3 weeks of haywire sleep patterns and like
right.
not being able to control your circadian rhythms, and it is
Mm.
frustrating. But like contrasted with going cold turkey on heroin, it's nothing.
Yeah. Oh,
uh,
I
yeah.
bet. Like, yeah.
So there's a low payoff cost
Mm-hmm.
for addiction, and then there's a tremendous amount of benefits, and it's seemingly it's not, obviously not infinite, but we're finding new and new sort of tweaks to the botany to address different situations, because like you, so I mean, the key active ingredients in marijuana, you've got terpenes, CBDs, THC, and I forget this other one. I think it's RFDs or something like that. But long story short is these same chemical components are found in many other plants. So like nutmeg has the highest THC content of any plant out
Right.
there,
Right.
and then most plants out there have varying levels of terpenes. Um, I think I stand under correction, but I think uh, cannabis is the only plant that provides CBD cannabinoids. Um, so what's interesting is the way this plant brings together the terpenes, the THC, the CBD, and the RFD in a cocktail that provides sought after effects.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of people express like going for the highest THC percentage to get the most stoned or the most high, but it's more often than not, it's not the case. So there's 12 different terpene profiles, and those profiles, when combined with CBD and THC, seem to create the effect. If you just have THC by itself, or just get CBD distilled out with no terpenes and no THC, it doesn't have that high effect.
Right.
But the combination of them seems to have that high effect. And what's interesting about the possibly infinite amount of applications is you've got varying levels in 12 different terpene profiles, varying levels in THC, varying levels in CBD. And if these levels go up by 0.25% on the terpenes or 1% on the CBD and THC, it can have a substantial change on the effect. So
Right.
I think it's the terpene myosin. If it's in 0.5% or higher, then you're going to have that like couch-like effect, and it's the sort of like go to sleep, doze off sort of vibe from it.
Right.
But then if that's less than 0.5% and you have limonene in higher than 0.5%, you're going to have a very upbeat and creatively stimulated high. And I think a lot of like musicians and artists, they tend to go for strains that have that sort of terpene profile that's high in limonene and low in myosin.
Right. Interesting.
But it's very cool. And I think what scares most people off is the sort of
all
entry
these
level.
oils people have been trying to say for years wrapped up in one.
Desired, can you mute?
What's up, Desired? How's it going?
Nothing. Go ahead.
So what's well, you raised an interesting point, Desired. I mean,
I didn't.
there's a lot of
sorry, I didn't
oils.
know he was talking to us. I thought he was talking to someone else.
Oh no, he was talking to us.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Sorry, that's my fault.
So Desired, you do raise an interesting point with the essential oils. And like I said at the start, these active ingredients we find by themselves without the combination of THC and CBD in many other plants across the animal kingdom, well, the plant kingdom as it were, but none of them seem to have provided the medicinal effects that they claim to do. But when you combine them with THC and CBD, less THC, more CBD, it does seem to provide some remedies. So yeah, and I'm very excited about all the new sort of research going into it now that it's been legalized.
I'm excited to watch the stoned ape theory play out in live real time.
What's stoned ape's theory?
Basically that our cognitive capabilities exploded when we found a substance similar to THC or mushrooms that allowed us to conceptualize much larger ideas, and that's what kicked off our increased evolution of tool use and cognitive thinking.
I have never heard this before.
Yeah, so it is very interesting, and obviously it's one of those things that in theory we can look at and say, oh, okay, the new neurological pathways that are open by usage of these things while the brain's being poisoned, because it needs to continue operating. We get these new neurological pathways, and some of those may open to a concept of fishing, right? Like thinking of things that just seem so intuitive now to us, but at the time, like, it's like going out and grabbing a fish out of the water seemed like the only way to go about it to someone who wasn't an abstract creative thinker. And then
is it a claim that it unlocked our ability to abstract then? And just one correction in the way you described it, and maybe it's not a correction, but you said poison the brain. The reason I pretty much don't do any other mind-altering substances now other than hallucinogens and marijuana is because all the others are very much poisons in the brain. So alcohol, heroin, cocaine, crack, ecstasy, all of those drugs, they are poisons in the brain. They damage the body, and they just have desirable effects. But with psilocybin and DMT and cannabinoids, we seem to have evolved receptors in our brains and in our physiology for that key into use with these drugs.
Yeah, they do.
Which is like rare.
Yeah, so they do, but the reaction, the brain is in a reaction of fighting off an invader. So it's like, you know, you're putting a substance into your body that's completely uprooting what is you know considered you know recognizable activity. It's
you're putting a substance into the brain that the brain doesn't generate on its own.
Because sure, we can say that there is some evidence that dopamine, like things like dopamine, of course, is naturally occurring. But the DMT one is, and let me pull up a paper I was reading recently.
As far as I understand, we do create a low level of DMT.
Yeah, it's a very low level, but it's very speculative at this point. It's not.
Yeah. I haven't seen the full thing, but I do know that
I'll drop the Berkeley.
Capable of making it, from what I know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll drop the Berkeley.
One individual
paper
may never make any, but every person can.
Right. Yes.
Well, yeah. I don't know if we make it or not, but at least has been my understanding. Obviously, there's not a lot of science into the subject, so I could be wrong, could be right. But it's my understanding that because we have a lot of DMT in our body and we deal with it on a daily basis, we process DMT very, very quickly. Like, we metabolize it extremely efficiently because of that. And when you take straight DMT, it lasts 10 to 15 seconds. You can experience time dilation during that experience, and you can experience hours, but the real time effect is like 10 to 15 seconds. The reason you brew ayahuasca tea is because you brew it with specific plant leaves that when you boil in water, it releases a protein that wraps around the DMT and prevents your body from metabolizing it as quickly. And that's why ayahuasca lasts like 6 hours or so.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. That reaction is, you know, it's very similar, if not exactly the same, to if you receive a really bad venomous bite from a viper, and your body's just like, it's a foreign agent. The body would have preferred you to be taking in a calorie count so that it could, you know, produce things that the body is going to be able to use constructively, right? But this substance is entering that's uprooting and also creating like a survival kick towards the interaction. But I know what you're saying, like categorizing it, all of this stuff as poison. You can make the same argument that, you know, refined sugar is, you know, the body's having that same kind of effect where it's like it's used to using it, but it's also like, don't give me refined sugar, give me other stuff, right?
Yeah, but I mean, so then you get into tenuous argument that everything is poisonous because, you know, it's all about quantity and concentration. Like, if you can get poisoned by water if you drink like 20 liters of water.
Yeah,
you'll get water
Travis,
poison.
were you more using it as a symbol of the mechanism, not a negative or positive about it?
Yeah. It's right. And what I'm saying is that I'm not talking about the metaphor of being poisoned. I'm talking more about at the cellular level, how the body is going to treat this foreign substance, or at least the quantity of this substance that is forcing, you know, with DMT, potentially
some disruption of homeostasis.
Potentially needing to force open neurological pathways that are new and foreign, because of the ones that you are used to using are just like are just being poisoned, right? They're just like, you're not able to use. That's why you have a complete shutdown and these strange experiences.
So I mean, I get where you're going with your argument, but the reason I label them as poisons, and I'm thinking specifically of the short-term effect. So like you take something like MDMA or ecstasy, it'll go straight to the brain and it'll release a lot of serotonin and happy juice, and you can deplete your serotonin and dopamine levels in your brain, which can lead to drastic negative effects, but that's more on the long-term side. But on the immediate short-term side, you can send someone for brain scans and count with a fair degree of accuracy how many times they've taken ecstasy or MDMA in their lifetime, because it leaves black spots in the brain. Like it
Right.
will go and destroy parts of your gray and white matter. So
right.
when I think about poison and toxin, I'm thinking about something that when you bring into the body, it actively destructs and destroys cells. So
Yeah.
like
So
when you drink alcohol,
Just to be
it'll
clear,
destroy
you're
brain
not saying
cells.
that if you do DMT, you do see those things. You're saying that you would call it poison if that happened, right? I might have missed something in what you were saying.
No. So not talking about DMT. I'm talking about MDMA and ecstasy. Like if you send
Right.
someone through a brain scan, you can. I mean, it might be
You
off
can.
by a couple percent, but you can count with a fair degree of accuracy the number of times they've done MDMA or ecstasy in their lives, because you'll be able to
Okay.
count black spots on their brain.
yeah. So
I didn't know that was a thing you
psychedelic.
could do. That's impressive.
So something to look at is like psychedelic toad venom hallucinogen. Here's a cool article. And it talks about
that stuff sounds dangerous. That sounds like a toxin.
Yeah, actually, Joe Rogan's done this a few times. Yeah, so this would obviously be different than pure DMT, right? This one is 5-MeO DMT, and that one is basically the licking cane toad thing.
Yeah, no, that I've seen some people take it, and it looks dangerous. It doesn't look like a pleasant experience. Like there doesn't even seem to even be a guarantee of a hallucinogenic experience. Like you just have a poisonous experience, and like, yeah, I don't. That's why I don't think many people see. Like, there's a documentary on Vice with a guy that's obviously like seeking hallucinogenic experiences, that has tried sort of everything and is looking for the next thing to like expand his mind.
Right.
And he's going after this frog, and his experience, no, it does not look awesome.
Speaking about although if you think of like evolution by natural selection, whenever there's an occurrence that happens that has a severe impact on evolution, it is kind of the quality of like here's what I'm thinking. We have a tribe that there's a sudden food depletion, and then they start eating these toads, or at least trying to eat them, and then they start having these like strange poisonous experiences that could potentially unlock even a social metaphorical structure that will have a huge impact on the psychology of that tribe moving forward. And that's kind of what Denied or Desired was talking about with regards to
completely as possible, because I've often wondered this about oysters. Like, how hungry, how desperate does someone need to be to go, let's scrape at this rock to pull off this thing that looks like a rock, smash it open, and eat the piece of snot? I mean, I love oysters, don't get me wrong.
Oh, me too.
Let me
if you
fuck you up
didn't
a little
know
bit.
what it tastes like, and you're just looking at this like piece of snot that came out of a rock, how
You think
desperate
that's bad?
do you need to be?
Think of it this way. There was a time after honey was invented, people were just trying slime coming out of bugs.
Yeah, and
but like it's a rock. It looks like a rock. I mean, I suppose after like big storm surges, you can pick up oysters off the beach. Maybe
yeah.
they put two and two together like that. But
Well,
it's always puzzled me with oysters.
I think you discover that these things aren't rocks and they're alive, and then all of a sudden you start, things that are alive can be eaten, and then the poor fucker who has to try it first is like, probably the invalid in the tribe. Like,
can you imagine how many iterations that this took? Because
oh my god, man!
I can totally see in
you guys are thinking that there's no outside input. I mean,
no, you
aren't
don't
there
have to
some animals that a human might have seen them breaking?
No, of course, of course. We're just
Right.
taking some liberties talking about some potential situations that may have occurred.
That would be funny.
But yeah. I mean, early human civilizations really did use the natural flow of nature, like what they saw out in nature, to decide, okay, if they see deer eating this particular berry, well, I guess that'll probably be okay for us, but it's not a perfect rule, because obviously the digestion and dietary systems are different, but it's kind of it's something.
Oh, but still, imagine the number of iterations and the number of deaths, because we're presuming that like someone ate it and died, and someone went, oh look, they ate and they died. With the level of superstition of ancient men, like they could have been eating, like could have used that same logic, like, oh, deer ate that berry, let's go eat those berries. Then he drops dead. It's like, no, it's the shooting star in the sky tonight. It's the sign of death.
Yeah, exactly.
And then someone goes and dies berries the next day. Like there must have been a number of iterations there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But let's bring it back to topic here. So the legalization of marijuana, I think, is going to change a lot of what we do. I think the sort of ways marijuana is now being considered in medical use is more on I wouldn't create marijuana for this sort of revolution in medicine. Ironically enough, I'd say it's one of the few positives of socialized healthcare, but it seems to go hand in hand with preventative medicine, and using marijuana to not always as a potential cure, but as a way to enhance your livelihood, as it were.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, for me,
living experience.
If I have to quantify or apply a percentage to like how much marijuana has improved my well-being, I generally say 100%, and a lot of it has to do with my sympathetic nervous system doing too much to cause a lot of pain in my body where my parasympathetic nervous system can't catch up. But the marijuana really helps that imbalance, and so does the antidepressant that I take. But what the antidepressant cannot accomplish, marijuana fills in that void.
It's interesting. I've never see. I suppose that's the sort of like thing I'm trying to find. Like antidepressants is like it's a medicine, right? It's something that you take once you have a deficit. Marijuana, I feel, is something that you should take regardless. And I think even though you probably don't exist, if you are the perfectly stable person with no problems in the world, I still think you should take marijuana, and I think it will improve your life.
Well, I think here's what I do. I always challenge family and friends to replace half of the alcohol intake in their life with edible marijuana. And for the ones who have actually taken the plunge and have tried it, and a lot of them, I would say in like my family and friend circle, I have a lot that are very like there's a lot of anti-weed rhetoric, like dopes do dope, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as soon as people take the plunge and try, they start losing their deep desire for alcohol. And I think that is an incredible thing, because alcohol is just like, it's a body killer. It's a body killer and a cancer creator. And we know this. We can demonstrate this.
Yeah.
Alcohol is just a vicious, vicious thing for the system.
This is where I go back to my sort of armchair philosophy theory that everyone needs something to cut the sobriety of life. And for most people, they choose alcohol. And I think largely to their detriment.
Yeah.
And I think now that marijuana is legal, there's an easy option. And like, you just take something like driving while drunk.
Yeah.
When you're smoking marijuana, if you're somehow motivate yourself to drive, which can be challenging, you drive at like 15 miles an hour because you're too scared to like smash something, because you're too stoned.
Right.
Contrast that with driving drunk. Like, there's no second thought. Yes,
Yeah.
I can drive.
Yeah.
And then you're driving at like 160 kilometers down the fucking suburban streets,
Yeah.
So just something as simple as that. Like, don't get me wrong, both parties are in the wrong because they're driving under the influence.
Yes. Yeah.
But I can clearly see how the damage from one scenario is potentially higher than the other.
Well, here's the thing, and let's talk about, like, oh, I don't have this lined up. That's my fault. Let's talk about, like, the emergence of violence from alcohol versus the emergence of violence from marijuana. Like, have you ever met someone violent, like, in your, and let's just talk about our own subjective experience for a bit. Have you ever met someone who's violent when they, like in a party setting or something, when they only have weed in their system?
No, and like I'll tell you my experience of trans parties in Cape Town. Cape Town hosts literally the best trans parties next to maybe Jerusalem and Israel. They hold the best trans parties in the world.
We have Shambhala. You should look up Shambhala in British Columbia. It's like it's a world renowned huge festival.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, you would it would be your, like, I think you would like want to live there.
So maybe think about it after I tell you the story.
Yeah.
So the trans scene in Cape Town was pretty much exclusively marijuana, LSD, and shrooms. It was very sort of 60s, 70s hippie vibe. And while the scene was fresh and young, there was a lot of people that were into that vibe. There was no need for security. Like, you could it was such a chill place. You arrive, you set up your tent, you go tripping, and like you go to like you go to the dance floor, and then you come back, and then you go meet some people, and then next thing you've woken up like 2 days later in someone else's tent, and you wake up to like someone offering you a bong or something to eat or a cup of tea, but then they got popular, and then they became well known, and when they became well known, all the drinkers came, and with drinkers come a whole different set of narcotics. With drinkers come cocaine, ketamine.
Right.
With drinkers you get MDMA and ecstasy, and I mean, to a degree, I can see there's negative vibes from people on uppers, like you can go on a coke rage, but. And I struggle to separate this out, but all I know is that when people that drank alcohol started attending these parties in large numbers, suddenly stuff started getting stolen from tents. People were locking all the valuables in their cars, and like there was violence and fights, and we needed to bring bouncers and security. So I mean, it's an anecdotal experience, but like I've been to mass gatherings with 4,000 or 5,000 people where people are only on hallucinogens.
Well, and I'll tell you, here's
no security.
Here's something that the government recognizes in Canada, because I've produced many concerts and really large scale live events. The alcohol really changes all of the requirements of what you need to have as a producer. It's really the key focus of law enforcement. It's like, will there be alcohol served? How much alcohol? How's it going to be served? How are you monitoring limits? How many drink tickets can someone get at a time? Like, all of these things. And there's never a question of like, do you expect there to be a lot of pot smokers in the audience? It's like, no, it's like, that's never a consideration. So, yeah.
Well, there's I mean, is it legal in Canada?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And
okay.
Yeah, so it is now, but I would say like I was producing shows when it wasn't. So
so what I have to say about that is, I mean, yes, perhaps. I mean, I'd certainly take it on as contributory evidence, but you have to think that the police can't exactly go, so what are your intentions to use cocaine at this event? I mean, they got to ask about alcohol because that's the only legal thing, you know?
Yeah. You know, they also do, although the police do take into consideration, like, you know, when I had Snoop Dogg down at the Malkin Bowl in Stanley Park in Vancouver, even though they saw like there was 10 RCMP officers that were, or no, 15 RCMP officers that were required to be at the venue, but they decided to just stand at the back because they saw all of the and pot wasn't legal at this time, and we were in a park, but all of the pot smoking was going on right in front of the stage, and the police decided, like, you know, it's more of a hassle if we're to go in there and start trying to like arrest people for smoking pot or doing drugs, because people were like, you know, throwing drugs and balloons and stuff over the outdoor fence, like it was a shit show. So like, yeah.
I think that's just good policing, though.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, but I guess what I'm saying is that I think if it would have been like a mass amount of, like, let's say cocaine use or like underage drinking or something like that, the police would have said, you know, fuck that. Because I think like if you have like a cocaine induced environment, like whatever, like the likelihood of, let's say, resisting arrest in that environment as opposed to like a pot induced environment would be like a lot higher.
That's when midgets started getting thrown. If Wolf of Wall Street taught me anything.
Yeah, man.
But I do think, in general, no matter what's being done, if it's being done in a way that does not include the police mandate, even if it is breaking the law, the police don't have a business doing it, because a lot of people see the police as people that must enforce. I think the police are there to certainly enforce in events where victims are voiceless, in the sense that they can't ask for assistance, or maybe they don't have the maturity age or intelligence to ask for assistance. So, like in the case of kids being smacked around, a police officer must step in, you know? In the case of a woman being abused, a police officer should step in.
Yeah.
But if like there's like two guys that are having a brawl and there's 20 people standing by watching them and like egging them on, and the guys don't seem to be asking for assistance or help and they're just duking it out, and a police officer walks by, I think the police officer should keep on walking by, because
I would say I agree with you, but where would the line be on that?
I know. That being said, it is a difficult line, but like as it relates to the sort of drug use vibe. I know in Cape Town, the trans parties were legendary, and everyone knew it. Like all manner of things were being taken on site, but it was done on private farms, like 100 k's from a city. There were no minors there, and because there's like literally nothing else, it was like open wild land that we brought all the concert equipment, and events organizers had done set up the private farm in the middle of nowhere. The only people that were there had intention to go there, and so the police, they would set up roadblocks to ensure no one drove home um, inebriated, because that's when they're stepping into the public realm and they're putting others in danger. That's when the police have a business stepping in. But because it was done on a private farm and literally no innocent party could participate, they pretty much did nothing about it. They knew exactly what was going on, and they could have had the legal right to enforce and come in and confiscate and inspect, but they didn't, because they're like, these are a bunch of adults going into the middle of nowhere, taking a crap load of mind altering substances, and they're bothering nobody that's not looking for it. So they stayed out of it, which I think is just good policing.
Mm.
I mean, maybe there's corruption involved. Who knows? It's South Africa, but I'd like to think it was good policing.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, if you're not harming someone and everyone's consenting and no one's calling the police, the police shouldn't be called in.
Yeah, it's
Do you think if the
I think
police
in
see
policing,
something like that, they should just call the medics to stand by? Just don't look for plausible deniability.
Well, it's I mean, these are professional events, and they were done by event hosts. So they obviously, I mean, this is how much knowledge was known. They got licenses from the city of Cape Town to run these events as event hosts. They got temporary liquor licenses to sell liquor, and along with all of that comes a requirement to have medics on sites and ambulances
Yeah.
and all that jazz, you know?
Yeah.
So I just find it remarkable that like there's nothing legal about what went down at those parties. Everything was illegal. It was complete debauchery.
Right.
But because it was a group of adults going in the middle of nowhere and doing it together, no one really gave two fucks. They just like bought what was in to like make sure everyone was safe, and went from there.
Right.
So yeah, Desire, do you smoke marijuana? Have you smoked marijuana?
Yes. I since discovering marijuana and its uses about 6 months ago, once I got, well, probably about a year ago, I don't know that I have stopped smoking every day. I apologize. My son is screaming, but yes, I'm a frequent user of marijuana.
And I'm quite interested, obviously, because you're a vet. Is it quite popular in use on the medical level for army services, or is it still sort of gaining traction there?
I think it's the military community, from what I've seen, is very, very supportive of marijuana. I don't know that it has been for.
Like, would you get it like on an official level? Would you get it from the vet insurance?
No, I did not get it through the VA. I had to pay for my own card and everything like that. But that's, I believe, only because federally they cannot prescribe it because it's federally illegal, and because they're a federal medical organization, they're under those guidelines. But all of the medical professionals that I go to all agree that I should continue to use it, and it has been helping mainly with a lot of the things you were listing to begin with are the positives and not many negatives to really turn it around.
Yeah. I think, I mean, this like, we have a quick chat about negatives. Smoking marijuana is bad for your health.
Yes.
It's significantly more bad than smoking cigarettes. So I mean, I've done a lot of research into this of recent because I've gone off smoking cigarettes and onto vaping, and how it cuts out like all the tars and all the stuff from burning the leaf. And I thought I'd check out marijuana, and marijuana is like 5 to 10 times the amount of tar and damaging substances in the actual smoke when you light it and smoke it. Um, but I think that's been how people are forced to be doing it, because it's been legal. And I'm very pleased to see that there's a lot of dry herb vaporizers and a lot of concentrate products that have come on the market now that it's been legalized, and people can finally apply their minds to distilling this thing properly instead of having to smoke it. So just if we're encouraging anyone that's not smoking currently to give this a try, I would highly recommend um, starting out with a vaporizer or concentrate of some sort, because then you're just getting the THC. You're not getting any of the negative stuff. I personally use a Magic Flight launch box. I give it the highest recommendation. Um, One thing you should know about dry herb vaporizers is there's multiple levels of THC in the plant. So when you talk about dry herb vaporizers, what they're doing is they're heating the plant to a point where it's not combusting, but the THC is cooking off into a vapor that you can then inhale. And you get different levels of THC all the way from sort of 150 degrees Fahrenheit up to about 375, 380 degrees Fahrenheit, and you combust around 400 to 420. So what's nice about the Magic Flight launch box is it's a purely mechanical device. So while it's heating, if you hold in the heater, it'll just keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter until it combusts. But when you suck in, what it's doing is it's sucking in cold air, and obviously you're sucking in the vapor at the same time. And because of the sort of heating element it has, that cold air runs over it, and it constantly varies the Fahrenheit temperature of the cooking box, basically. So to the effect that when you're doing one pull from the MFLB, you're getting the full range of THC cook-off, as opposed to other devices which either have no temperature setting, or you have to keep setting the temperature at different levels to pull out the different THCs.
So far as I can tell, though, deniability, I don't know if you agree with this, but edible weed or tea weed would be the healthiest way to ingest.
It would be, but it is a different experience.
Sure, I would agree with that for sure.
I I could be biased. I started off smoking. When you smoke, the feeling's instant, and it also goes away within a reasonable time frame, like 2-3 hours.
Right.
So you have a lot more control of how much you want, when you want it, and how you would like to experience it. With eating, it takes half an hour to an hour and a half to come on. You're never really sure the dosage. Maybe you take too much, maybe you take too little. If you take too much, you're going to go to sleep. If you take too little, you're going to sit around waiting for nothing. It's just, and again, I mean, I don't personally use them, so maybe there's a medium somewhere that people who only use edibles have found, and then they know exactly how much to take. But I prefer just knowing exactly what I'm in for, how long I'm in for it, and being able, you just have a lot more control when you're taking it in through the lungs.
Yeah.
Although there is one thing, activated THC oil.
Right.
It's hard to come by because it's hard to get itself activated like that. It's usually quite pricey. We'll put a pin in oils for now, but when you get really pricey oils, it's usually activated THC, because THC has to be heated to a certain temperature to actually be activated. And it's quite a complex process to extract the THC out and activate at the same time. Usually you put it into butter or something to get it activated. But if you can get base coconut distilled activated THC oil, that you can just rub on your gums. You can absorb it within like 15 minutes, and I've been thinking about swapping that out for my vaporizers. But yeah, I do enjoy the lung effect much more.
Right. Yeah, I would say for me too. Like I do a good edible experience like with gummies. I think with gummies I actually start feeling the experience quite quickly. And I think that just depends on how each individual's body metabolizes things. But I'm also very sensitive to like medication. So with my sympathetic nervous system being like off the charts, out of control, that's kind of like I'm always very sensitive to things like that, to substances.
It could also I mean, rewind 10 years ago, we never knew anything like this was possible. The best you could get from the edible range was like baking cookies.
Right.
And there's some awesome stuff that's been coming out, and maybe some.
I get these awesome like black square gummies that they've got like 13 different flavors of. It's awesome.
And here's
it's super easy now.
And how long does it take to affect you?
I don't ever feel it, but I don't feel high either. Marijuana more helps me with my anxiety, so that I can have conversations like this without. Because I think you guys have probably noticed I've gotten more and more calm as I've been here. It's helped me get my anxiety under control. That helped me get my confidence, so that I feel like I am heard, so I don't have to force my idea in anymore.
Right.
That's quite cool. So they're managing to distill out the THC high effect.
So I don't
know if it's just my brain, but I don't feel like I think any differently. Like there's no like, oh my God, you look at the shapes. Like none of that happens. I think the exact same way non-high as I do when I am high.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these effects, I've learned to sort of respect the unconscious brain. Like your conscious brain is never really in full contact with your unconscious brain, and your unconscious brain's sort of experiencing all the sort of horrible negativity.
I do talk to them. I let them communicate. I actually named them.
I want to.
Well, desired is my older, more rational mind, and the logic side, and Chumint is my more artsy and emotion side. And then what you guys are hearing is the combination of the two, which is Nick, which would be what psychologists call my wise mind.
Interesting. I just wanted to read this data about this is from drugabuse.gov, but it just gives some information about what's going on. So how do drugs work in the brain? Drugs interfere with the way neurons send, receive, and process signals via neurotransmitters. Some drugs, such as marijuana and heroin, can activate neurons because their chemical structures mimics that of a natural neurotransmitter, natural in quotes, in the body. This allows the drugs to attach onto onto and activate the neurons. Although these drugs mimic the brain's own chemicals, they don't activate neurons in the same way as a natural neurotransmitter, and they lead to abnormal messages being sent through the network. So when I was talking about the abnormal messaging, that's like within the neuro within the neurological pathways that you normally use. That's where the thing changes, where they're not activating the same way as a natural neurotransmitter, and they lead to abnormal messages being sent through the network. So that's the abnormal message is something that can like branch off into something new because it's not something that is normal within your brain. Other drugs such as
that makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot of sense actually, because like sort of anecdotally, it sort of seems to describe what I struggle to put into words about hallucinogenic experience.
Right.
I suppose with marijuana as well, but like specifically with hallucinogens, it feels like it's opened your mind. Like you're more perceptive and you're more aware
Right.
of like nuances and emotions, and you just feel more aware, like something's gone into your brain and ripped it open, and like you're now taking in new sets of information you never knew existed.
Other drugs such as amphetamine or cocaine can cause the neurons to release abnormally large amounts of natural neurotransmitters or prevent the normal recycling of these brain chemicals by interfering with transporters. This is the overwhelming charged feeling that we feel. This too from something like cocaine or amphetamine, which I've never experienced, but we have a lot of data on this. This too amplifies or disrupts the normal communication between neurons. And I just wanted to read this last part. This one's very interesting. What parts of the brain are affected by drug use? Drugs can alter important brain areas that are necessary for life-sustaining functions and can drive the compulsive drug use that marks addiction. Brain areas affected by drug use include the basal ganglia, which play an important role in positive forms of motivation, including the pleasurable effects of healthy activities like eating, socializing, and sex, and are also involved in the formation of habits and routines. These areas form a key node of what is sometimes called the brain's, quote, reward circuit. So this is a big part of my book, The Pleasure Drive. Drugs overactivate this circuit, producing the euphoria of the drug high. But with repeated exposure, the circuit adapts to the presence of the drug, diminishing its sensitivity and making it, and this is why some drugs become addictive, diminishing its sensitivity and making it hard to feel pleasure from anything besides the drug. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I dropped the link for you guys in YouTube, and then I also dropped it in the live Pangburn Philosopher as well. There's some interesting diagrams as well.
Yeah, I suggest Train Spotting. It'll visually show you everything you just read. Oh shoot, what is it? 30 Seconds to Mars. Gangrene. What is it? You know the movie with Jared Leto and well, now I gotta look it up. I'll be back.
I'm so bad with actors' names. Like you're speaking to the wrong person there. Like yeah. I get Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock. I can't believe I just mentioned both of them in one sentence and got it right. I know they don't look the same.
Requiem for a Dream.
I always get them mixed up.
Requiem for a Dream.
Oh yeah, that's a great film.
I really hope that the legalization of marijuana sort of leads to less hard drug usage, because I think its sort of status as a gateway drug is entirely linked to the fact that it's illegal, and I think because it's illegal, people go, oh, if marijuana is illegal, heroin's illegal, and I just got marijuana. It wasn't really that bad because it isn't. Let me go try heroin, and heroin's bad. Like heroin's horrible. I'd be interested to see if there's a per capita decrease in hard drug usage, although it would be hard to sort of measure. But one can live in hope. Have you guys seen the new sort of? I don't know if there's any sort of meat to it. It makes theoretical sense, but I'm always wary about conspiracies making theoretical sense. About marijuana being used for its anti-inflammatory effects to treat the lung inflammation you see in COVID.
Yeah, I've read some of the studies that have been done, and it's one of those things where I think cannabis has been shown to have some anti-inflammatory properties in some bodies. If that makes sense.
So no actual research.
Well, there is research, but I think the problem is that with a substance like marijuana, it's like it's kind of like, you know, so, like for some people, like cumin will have a positive effect on their gut, but it's not going to do a damn thing for someone who has a severe acid reflux response to cumin.
I see what you're talking about. But where I wanted to go with that is there's something that people should be very wary about, especially in the new age of marijuana legalization, is it's not a cure-all. There's a lot of people running around town saying it cures everything.
Oh, I know.
And it really doesn't. Even like people touting it as a cancer cure.
Oh,
like
let's
bust that one.
This kind of stuff kills people. Bad ideas.
It's not a cancer cure. It all it helps is the symptomatic relief of a cancer cure. So chemotherapy. Right. So if you take chemo radio, you're not going to be able to eat, and if you can't eat, you're not going to get nutrition. If you don't get nutrition, your immune system dies, and it just makes the whole situation worse.
Right.
So when people say marijuana helps with cancer, what they're talking about is marijuana helps people who have experienced chemoradiotherapy to 100%. Regain appetites and process food and get nutrition. And it can be phrased in an indirect way to be saving their lives, but it's got nothing to do with curing the cancer itself.
No, and people do use that all the time. Like if only people would just smoke marijuana, and your body's going to be put into this state that is in a better state to heal the cancer. That's the pseudo one that's always whittled in there, and then people think that means like, oh, okay, yeah, so basically it is like, you know, it puts my body in a better state to fight it, and that's not really the case. Like, that's not the way cancer works.
I see where the misunderstanding comes from.
Yeah, I do too.
I have heard of studies where people, where terminal patients that have been given like 3 months to live start smoking marijuana and live for like 12 months, and they put it down to less stress factors in the body and less because of the fewer stress factors, you have a better immune response to the cancer. But it's not like sending people into remission. It's buying them another couple months, and then they're still dying from cancer.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to post this from cancer.org just on marijuana and cancer, just so everyone can see the data. I'll post it on the YouTube chat and also in Discord here.
So if there's anyone out there who knows someone that's going, yeah, I'm not doing chemotherapy, I'm taking CBD oil.
Yeah. Oh my God. And please give them this link that I just dropped, because all of the data is put into a very colloquial, easy to understand way. And it talks about how marijuana can affect the symptoms of cancer. A number of small studies of smoked marijuana found that it can be helpful in treating nausea and vomiting from cancer chemotherapy. A few studies have found that inhaled, smoked, or vaporized marijuana can be helpful treatment of neuropathic pain. That's where I get my most beneficial response for my biology is dealing with the neuropathic pain of what I was talking about earlier, the imbalance of my sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Smoked marijuana has also helped. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
You guys cut out.
Oh, okay.
You cut out halfway through.
Oh, weird. Oh, okay. Yeah. So and then also, like Deniability was saying, smoked marijuana has also improved food intake in HIV patients. So the food intake, the appetite enhancement is a really key property. here's some more. More recently, scientists reported that THC and other cannabinoids such as CBD slow growth and or cause death in certain types of cancer cells growing in lab dishes. Some animals studies also suggest certain cannabinoids may slow growth or reduce speed of some forms of cancer. Now, people should take that anecdote for what it is. This is very recent looks at certain types of cancer cells. Don't take that to mean that if you have stage 3 or stage 4 esophageal cancer, that smoking a bunch of weed and getting it in your esophagus is the way to go. And that's, this is a problem.
As always, consult your oncologist.
Yes.
But as far as I know, most oncologists will say, yeah, go smoke weed while you're taking this chemo, radio, or surgery.
Yeah.
You need some sort of modern medicine intervention. Like marijuana alone is not going to save you from cancer.
Yeah, and then they're obviously, a lot of the time they're going to use cannabinoid pure drugs like dronabinol or Marianol is the what's it called, the trademark name, or Sesamit. So this is all in at cancer.org. You can learn all of the and it gives you all the side effects as well, all the potential down curves of the usage. But of course, when it comes to, chemotherapy is basically tuned to trick the cancer into thinking the body is dead. That's kind of what chemotherapy is. And if you think about it that way, you're basically dealing with the symptoms of almost being dead and feeling that way. And, THC and cannabinoid is going to help with the terrible symptoms of feeling almost dead.
Yeah, I can totally see that. My best friend actually died of cancer in his early 20s.
Oh, terrible.
He got a horrible rare form of brain cancer, and he died quite horribly. Slowly went blind, slowly lost this, lost that. And eventually died blind and deaf, and it was quite horrible. But I used to take him and he had dual radio and chemotherapies. I would drop him off, and he'd look like a person. You pick him back up again, and he looked like a Holocaust survivor with radiation burns.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the idea is to trick the cancer into thinking there is no replication left to be done, and the body is dying. It's to essentially suffocate it, because it just doesn't see it. It's like there isn't enough liveliness around this to continue to multiply, and it really is. Chemotherapy is the best fighting chance in many of these cases, and it's and there are a lot of anti-chemotherapy rhetoric out there where people are like, yeah, the leading cause of cancer death is chemotherapy. It's like, that's such a weird way to look at it. Such a cynical way to look at it, because yes, you're right that chemotherapy is essentially trying to kill you without fully killing you. But it's a treatment for good reason, because that cancer, we know that cancer is essentially inevitably going to kill you. The chances of it killing you are extremely high, and we have high levels of certainty that if you have a certain kind of, or a certain stage of colon cancer, you are going to die if we don't do something incredibly invasive.
And you need to balance with other things as well. I mean, in the case of colon cancer, maybe it can be surgically removed.
Sure,
but
yeah.
is an experience living without a colon.
Yeah.
I can just imagine walking around with a colostomy bag the rest of your life.
Right,
That
right.
can't be pleasant at all. And then like you're right, it's basically a choice between this will kill you in 4 to 5 years. This might save you in 4 to 5 years, but it also might kill you.
Right.
So it's really just trying to make the best of a bad choice.
Right, right.
I do have hope for a lot of the research going into marijuana.
Yeah, man.
Like I said, I've got a big hope from the sort of preventative side of medicine, which I think is a much better path to walk down.
Well, and look, we may find that like overdosing the body with cannabinoids for certain cancers are going to eliminate cancer cells, and that's a good thing. And maybe the future will be like, every child at or let's say every adult at age 20 will get this cannabinoid cleanse treatment where it's just going to clean up all of the very early stage cancer cells in your body.
From Springer.
But it's a good dream, a good pursuit. If there is scientific data to show us that there is minimization, slowing, and eradication of the cells, it's a worthwhile pursuit to see if something greater can be made out of it.
Actually, I'm going to give this point to you. The one thing I will give socialized healthcare systems is, but this is more often than not a response to the problem I see: spiraling costs and decreased quality. But because it's become apparent to national healthcare service providers that it's just too expensive for everyone just to keep getting sick and like fixing stuff, it's much cheaper to focus on preventative medicine and
Oh yeah, definitely.
And just those people that are thinking what's preventative medicine, preventative medicine is completely opposite to the sort of medicine you think of today. It's finding ways to adjust your how you live and go about life
100%, man.
Boost your natural immune system as much as possible so that you don't get sick in the first place.
Look, and diet is everything. Like when it comes to cancer, the things where there is genetic predispositions to cancers, but there is a way to also interrupt and avoid those genetic predispositions. And a lot of this has to do with what you're talking about and what basic general practitioners, doctors focus on. And it's the basics: sleep, diet, exercise. Like these things are at the core of preventative healthcare. And, if you can, and if we look at the United States as an example where they have a huge problem with obesity, reducing the fatness of your country is the cost savings, especially if you were to adopt a universal health care in your country. But the cost savings for people is just, sick people are economically, like in Canada, sick people are, a heavy cost to the healthcare system.
Yeah, but that's the free mover problem.
Sure, yeah.
And you can only solve free mover problems by taking away freedoms, and that's what socialized health is. Do you not think it ends in the government saying I mean, we talk about socialized healthcare a lot in the sort of the initial iterations, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the end iteration of that game is the government telling you can't smoke because it's going to cost this much to cure your cancer, telling you can't eat more than this amount because it's going to cost this much for your heart attack.
So Canadians would never stand for that kind of authoritarianism. So in Canada, it's like as long as Canadians are happy to pay for others' healthcare through our taxation, and that's fine. And this is, like we were talking about before, it's kind of part of the moral fabric of the country. It's written into our legal system. So that's all fine and dandy. But as soon as someone is to come in and say, and this is the argument I make towards the Canadian government, that all drugs really should be legalized and available at the pharmacy, recreational. And I want to see that happen, because if kids want to try ecstasy, I want them to go
regulated would be nice.
I want them to go to the pharmacy and get it from a pharmacist who will be like, okay, you guys are gonna try ecstasy.
Here's tips, tricks, safety measures.
Here is what you need to know. Based on your file, I understand that this is your first time using. So these are the things you got to look out for. These are the risks, and we suggest that you do this under. And I don't know what the age would be. It probably wouldn't be available for kids.
25
for kids use and
side. There's a scientific.
That's what most studies point to is 25 is when you kind of get your full, like cognitive development done, and you're starting to shape it rather than grow it.
So desired. The problem I have with that is that I don't think it takes into consideration the social reality of the human ape experience, because most young
I don't
people,
think 18 is where the line should be anyway.
Well, what I'm saying, desired, is most young people are going to want to and will try these things out while they're in their teen formative years. And if you try to slap a legislation on saying like not till 25, the same thing's going to happen with drinking and how it happens now. Like kids will have used mushrooms, a lot before the government.
I'd say legally sell it too, not necessarily your use law.
Yeah. So
I would give you that.
So my point about that is, maybe what we need to build is a culture of kids going to their parents who are the adults and saying, can you
guide my ayahuasca trip?
Yeah, like if the kid says, I want to try ecstasy, to their parent, just like a kid might go up to their parent and say, I want to try drinking. Like maybe building a culture that's more geared around that being part of the parental guidance, and the parent is the one going to the pharmacy, and then the parent has to then take on the responsibility of delivering this information to their child.
I mean,
kind of like they do with
alcohol.
We
already have an analogy to this sort of?
Well, alcohol,
sex.
So quick anecdote. The primary reason I don't do ecstasy is when I was 18, I got my hands on my first bunch, and we went and had a draw the first night with some friends. Took a break on Saturday, and then we're going to go again on Sunday. We dropped our pills, and we were about to start rushing, and his parents came home.
Right.
One of my friends' parents came home unexpectedly from their long weekend, and they were having a massive fight.
Oh.
So we were rushing tits, and his pops comes in and goes, takes one look at us, and you guys are on drugs. And we like started scrambling, and like, what drugs are you on? And,
oh wow.
We tried to babble, and like
that
eventually said we were on ecstasy, and he's like, cool, let me do some with you. And we're like, what the fuck?
That's fucked.
Did E with us and started rushing with us, and it was the most awkward and unpleasant experience.
Yeah, that sounds really unpleasant.
Yeah.
I see, and that right there highlights what I think is wrong. I don't think that should be an unpleasant experience. I think that adults not being able to identify when like you were uncomfortable and be like, hey, I'm uncomfortable too. That's what the point of this experience is. Like, none of us really know what we're doing, but it's always met with this air of, I know what I'm doing. You're right. I'm right and you're wrong. And that's why you were so shocked that he wanted to do it with you. And that's why it became uncomfortable versus a learning or a teachable moment.
But you know what I think about?
I think that stigmatizing is kind of is the stigma. Is kind
I
of
actually, do you know what I think about though? Like if I was, and I've never done ecstasy, but if I was a kid at like what, like I want to be doing it with my friends, and the feelings of that ecstasy can bring on are feelings of ecstasy, and right. Like you have to think of like when you're a teenager, you don't really want to be around your parents because you're not going to really feel free to. And that to really experience it the way you want to, like, and I think that's probably what deniability is getting at.
Yeah, because like we had girls around and we went to like have fun. I'll leave it there.
I mean, I think of like sex, right? It's like it's gonna make you feel sexually charged in a lot of ways, in the right environment. And if you're around like if I was a young guy around girls. Like, and I'm doing ecstasy with them. Like, I'm sure there's like, you want to be, exploring and stuff like that. So,
yeah. And having a 45-year-old man in the room is not the way to do it.
Yeah, no. And I was going to say, like, talk about killing your ecstasy boner.
Yeah. But I think to bring it back to what we're talking about, I think you still get your benefit, Travis, if you put the legal limit at 25, because there's a lot of evidence on the neuroscientific level to show that drugs have a much less harmful effect after the age of 25.
Look, definitely, I'm
substantially less harmful,
and I don't wish to dispute that, but like deniability with all of these things, most people I know who have ever used mushrooms, like by the age of 25, they had done it probably 25 times.
I think what Travis is trying to point out is you're combating. You are right now the logical, rational side, and Travis is kind of pointing out the art and inspiration side of, like, you're not going to get the full growing experience if you don't take social into account. You're only taking the scientific. These are the harmful and positive effects, and 25 is where it is. But you're not going to get the social that you also need from it as well. I think
there's a positive spin-off to it, right?
Is that fair, Travis?
Yeah, that's close. Yeah.
So I'm not denying that this happens, and it's certainly been my experience having tried almost everything before the age of 25. But like at the same time, there's a huge danger in illegal drugs because they're impure. A lot of ecstasy and MDMA is cut down with radix and concrete and cement dust.
Which is why I want them to come from the pharmacy, man.
But that's why I say I think we win if you set it at 25, because the government's still putting out the right information, which is drugs have a much less devastating effect on your body after the age of 25.
Look,
but at the same time, just because they're legalized and the purity is now 100%, that's the nefarious trading still going to happen. Kids are still going to go to get an older brother's like ID card or something to go buy them whatever they want at the pharmacy legally. But at least in that case, it'd be 100% pure.
100%. Yeah. So
that crap.
Yeah, my dream scenario that I'm imagining in my mind is that an adult will be making the decision and taking on the responsibility, where the government has said, sure, 25. I think it would probably realistically be in line with drinking age, because I really think society treats drinking too loosely. Like even adults, like when they get over like this culture of like here's one, these ladies that are like,
here's 2 whole days to do this thing.
One huge glug of wine a day keeps the doctor away. It's like, no, You don't know what you're talking about. Doctors prefer that you don't drink alcohol. Let's be clear about that for your health. And then they also take into consideration that people like how alcohol makes them feel and the de-stressing components.
There are some medical benefits from that.
Yeah, and look,
on
from
a small occasion.
Yeah, from a psychological standpoint, there are, and doctors wouldn't deny this either, that there are some psychological benefits that are inevitably going to affect your biology in a positive way from the experiences you can get from doing substances, including alcohol.
I was saying also the blood thinning. Like there's not just psychological. There's also actual, like I could see a doctor prescribing because it's an easy.
Yeah, but
like you can have a beer because you need something to thin your blood before you go to bed.
Yeah, but desired. It's like in a perfect world, let's say in a scientifically perfect world, we would just administer, if the person wanted blood thinning, we would administer a blood thinning effect that didn't include the alcohol that's poisoning the body.
No, I'm saying that there is a case, because I've asked doctors about this, where it's you're a little bit, you could use a little bit of thinning, but we don't have any way to dose the thinness that you can. So it's not helpful, but it's not. Does that make like it's
so there is, and I know
you're loosening up the gears just a smidge.
Yeah, I know what they're talking
only
about.
have one. If you do more than that, then you're messed up. So
yeah,
I wouldn't say that all doctors agree that you shouldn't ever drink alcohol. There are some cases. That's all I'm pointing out.
I'm just saying from a biological health standpoint, if someone was interested in getting that smidge of thinning or whatever, we can develop medicines to do that, but we haven't.
Because we already have something that works. It's evolution.
Yeah, well, because but the point is we can improve on I think the game of alcohol. I think we can improve on that.
I agree with that. And I don't disagree. Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I'm just saying you said that there's no reason.
Well, no, I'm saying my point is that if a doctor if someone's having like, a biological issue like a gut issue that's totally tearing their life apart, and they are a casual drinker, a lot of the times the doctor's going to be like, well, let's try cutting alcohol out for a while.
Okay, yes, I will agree with that. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, because I see people use the I drink a red wine for the antioxidants and these kind of things, where it's like, well, you don't have to be drinking red wine for that. You can get that from so many different substances.
Eat a fresh tomato.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. There's so many different things, and then someone will say, "Well, I can't because I'm sensitive to citrus," and then you'd be like, "Well, there are a billion other things out there." But yeah, like with the amount of research that we can show where alcohol is directly connected to certain forms of cancer, there is an alcohol apologetics community that will come up by saying, the psychological benefits, which there are for the right kind of experiences with alcohol, but it's something I would love to see us improve on, because it is a thing that is worldwide, and it's a very social thing for us. There are so many things that come under the umbrella of alcohol, but I would like to see us, improve on that. Alcohol 2.0. What does that substance look like?
Marijuana. I mean, realistically, it does all the things everybody who drinks wants alcohol to do. Gives you the good time, does all that stuff, doesn't give you the hangover, doesn't,
I think we need
socially
to look
lubricates, brings clarity and perspective, stuff like that.
So high testosterone level people, I think they like the rush. Like I have a lot of testosterone. especially before I was medicated on an antidepressant and before I started using marijuana, it really does kind of subdue the testosterone drive a little bit. And I think people with high testosterone like the challenge that alcohol brings with it. And I would like to see more research done, basically bringing clinical psychological research in generalized statistics and applying that to, the attitudes towards marijuana like it's some kind of like dope thing. Like there's this machismo element, and which I think is the leading cause of death in males. But there's this machismo element to like looking at marijuana as like almost like a giving up, and it's the same thing. Like it's not macho to take an antidepressant. Like when people talk about the stigma of mental health that exists within strongly within men, where you get to a point where the machismo levels are so strong within an individual, they end up, it feels better for them to kill themselves, at least the idea, to kill themselves as opposed to go and getting help and potentially medicinal help. There's maybe the studies exist and I haven't read them, but it's an interesting thing that I've talked to my buddy Jer about a lot, about how people view marijuana use versus alcohol use, especially in the West. It's quite fascinating.
I think alcohol has sorry. I think alcohol has a much longer sort of intertwined development pathway with human beings. I remember reading an article on sort of human innovation, and there's a couple of innovations that every single human iteration of human society has developed independently of each other, and that's fire and alcohol.
Yeah,
and I found that like remarkable. Like you go into the middle of the Amazon jungle, and there's people that take this fruit and they'll chew it up in their mouths.
Yeah.
And then spit it all out into a container, and they chew it up and spit it out because of the enzymes in the saliva. It helps the fermentation process.
Yeah.
And,
isn't that crazy?
And they bury it for like 3 months, and then they come up and there's beer, and everyone's drinking the beer in the village
and staring into the fire.
Yeah,
there's a reason why this is satisfying. Like when I think of my hometown, I think of like having a beer staring into a fire that you just built being one of the most pleasurable things I could do. Like even now, even though I'm far removed, I live close to the city. It's like when I think of the pleasurable pursuit of building my own fire on the beach and having a drink with me and staring into just watching the fire. It's like it makes my hair stand up on end.
And you said on the beach.
Well, that
so
too.
You're not just staring into the fire,
woods.
dude.
Yeah.
You are using earth. You've got earth, wind, fire.
Sure.
You got it all, brother. You're
and
airbending here.
Yeah,
Avatar.
Power Rangers unite.
Yeah, no, totally. And looking and our relationship with water, man.
Come on, Captain Planet.
It's like looking out. Yeah, and if you can't be around a body of water, you're out in the forest around old growth, and you're just like there's a symbiotic orchestra of pleasure going on there that is it like deniability was saying, that we look at human civilizations and it's a cultural commonality that I would argue comes from our pleasure drive, that I think is fundamental to life.
How much is he paying you to get to this every time, deniability?
Not at all. I just keep running into it.
Yeah.
Give it a plug, Pangburn, go.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's cool, man. I am obsessed with. Well, I'm absolutely obsessed with quantum mechanics right now, but I'm also obsessed, just deeply obsessed with the human condition, especially early human condition and the relation to how we live now and how it just hasn't gone away. It's just so fundamental to our experience. Some things like staring into it's a weird thing to think with everything we have, with everything I have access to. Licking a sweet treat, like well, I mean, sex is a really good example of this.
Yeah, so licking a sweet treat.
that was the line I was hoping you guys would draw with me. But yeah.
Well, I lick tacos, but if you want to lick long, tall, sweet treats, Pangburn.
Oh, there's too many metaphors happening. It's making me itch. But man, like putting your hand on it, like I don't know, man, going outside and putting your hand on a freaking tree trunk, like this stuff is like
ASMR.
ASMR,
like, and I know that's weird, but like that's exactly what I get from ASMR. Like I remember, like specifically when I was on an operation where we were Overwatch for some stuff that was going on in a valley. We were sitting up on the top of a mountain in Afghanistan for 3 days. And like 2 of the nights, there was nothing going on and nobody knew we were there. So it was pretty light security, just kind of sitting there 2:00 in the morning, literally, you know, no village within 30 miles. And when I say village, they have like candlelight type stuff.
Right.
And I get to sit out. And that was one of those few times when I sat there in life and was like, I am never going to see this spot on this planet again. I'm going to take every second of this in.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Do you find it strange? Do you think you'd have that same experience at the top of the Eiffel Tower, which I suppose you can make the same claim about?
Yeah.
I did at the well, no, because I can go visit the Eiffel Tower. I can't go to the war zone and figure out the thing that I like. Right. You don't know, though. You know what I mean? Like those type of moments pick up. Well, you never know the last time you're gonna shit in your own house.
I think it has something to do with nature. Like I often have that experience when I'm walking about the mountain here. But like this is a fairly sparsely populated mountain with lots of indigenous wildlife, and there's parts where you can go, and like it's just amazing when you come around to like a waterfall that you've never found before, and you're like, cool. There's like no paths here. I had to undo bash with my machete through a whole bunch of trees. No other human being has been here for a while, or will ever be here for. I mean, it's a watering hole, so obviously at some point. But like, it was just like I have those moments when I'm like, there's no one else around. I'm the only person experiencing this moment right now.
I know what you're saying, deniability, by bringing up the Eiffel Tower, because like when I was in the Colosseum in Rome, I found myself sitting down in the gallows like a gladiator would have. And I found myself in this artistic structure that had real world human history elements to it, where I just like took a big handful of dust and dirt off the ground where I was sitting, and I just like I squeezed it in my hand and watched the dirt fall, and I was just like, and there was something metaphorical about time I was experiencing there, like, and also observing the naturalistic fallacy of how we, you know, like what we've been talking about here of like, you know, being in we'll say something like natural environment. The environment I'm in right now in my office with all this technology is a natural environment as well. It's just something we view as, you know, unnatural because it came from a very special intelligent ape.
But it is natural.
My desk, natural. The inner workings of my computer. I think, you know, and I think that's why we created the naturalistic fallacy to kind of like point us to, we can have these naturalistic connections to this right here, this McDonald's recyclable McCafe large double container, it's like it seems superficial and unnatural to us on the surface because we're so used to innovation and so used to the mass printing of this stuff. But when we mass reforest a place that has been deforested, we don't feel that way about it because it's like growing out of.
How many man-made lakes have you skied on and not been this is not a lake?
I'm 100%. That's a really good example of the man-made lake or the man-made forest. Or
no, I didn't
gardens.
go water skiing. I went some bullshit skiing on some man-made, unnatural shit. You got to go over to the other lake. It's way better wake. Well, you get way better skiing.
My favorite place to fish on Vancouver Island is a man-made lake that actually is the reason why it's so plentiful with rainbow trout is because there's breeding done and the rainbow trout are actually brought to the lake. Mm-hmm. But while I'm in that experience with the water and with the life, all of the life around me, like the marmot stealing my fish out of my bag.
Even the fucking fish were handed to you.
The fish were actually popularized, this
somebody
lake.
Put the fish there, someone put the water there. So that is a 100%, in quotations, artificial experience. You're using a fake ass fishing pole with a fake ass line and a fake ass water and a fake ass fish.
Right.
That's all unnatural.
Let me put a challenge to you guys. Let's not jump on this too hard though. But let me put a challenge to you. Do either of you hunt?
I have not gotten the opportunity to yet, except for humans for 2 years.
Yeah, so I hunted growing up. I come from a hunting family. I don't anymore just because I'm too far removed from the environments I can hunt in, but I would hunt if I lived further out.
Okay.
But I've skinned animals, gutted animals, carried bodies out of the bush.
The perfect person to ask this question to, and I think he's going to I hope it makes my point. So you're going out as a hunter, and you need to bring meat home for your family.
Yeah.
You have an option there. You can go to Deer Island. It's an hour boat trip. Pack your gun up, get on a boat, go there, and you got to go find the deer. You got to hunt it, track it, kill it, gut it, and take it home.
Yeah.
Or you can go shoot a deer that's chained to a pole in someone's backyard.
Right.
And do exactly the same.
Right.
Accomplishes the same goal. Which to you would be more satisfying?
And here's another plug, my pleasure drive drives me towards the experience that even though I could accomplish, here's how people think of this. You can accomplish the same thing by just going the easy route, right? But I say that the pleasure derived from the experience of hunting is what will drive the human hunter to go do the hunt that they feel that hasn't been made easy for them, for the pleasure of the hunt.
So therein lies what I think is the beauty in nature, is the challenge, as you say, because going out into nature and taming it and bending it to your will, as
harnessing,
I would that experience, as opposed to going into the stock markets and harnessing the stock market. I mean, this could be a bias. I would find much more pleasure in harnessing nature purely because of the chaos. There are no rules. You go in maybe with a little bit of knowledge how to make a fire and how to skin something,
Yeah.
But like you go in not knowing what's going to happen, and you have to deal with it as it comes. That's what I love about Bundu bashing through and making a new path down the mountain, or making a new trail, because like you could be making the most awesome path, following like animal trails for a little bit, and then it's going, okay, no, I need to go there, and like cutting through brush, and then you come to a fucking cliff.
Yeah.
And there's no way through, and you had no clue about it. and then you got to start all over again. Or you come to a waterfall, and it's, oh fuck, this is amazing. This is now the path I'm going to come down next week,
Yeah.
And so yes, it's a naturalistic fallacy, but I engage in challenges in the urban environment and in the rural environment, and I derive so much more satisfaction from completing challenges in
Yeah.
the rural environment.
And honestly, if to add a little bit of math to equate this, it is a naturalistic fallacy, but our right brain artistic inspirational elements care not about the fallacy. It cares only about the pleasure derived. That's the argument I would make. We as hunter gatherers, like we love doing things and accomplishing things for ourselves. Like you said, like creating a new trail. Even if you're not the first actually on this planet to find that cliff, you're pretty damn certain that no one's been there recently, because look at how much this has grown in.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
It's a yeah, but I'm a rural person, so maybe it's different for city slickers. So I bring my cousin up here. He's so funny to watch. Like I was a Boy Scout when I was younger, and I go through the forest quite comfortably. Like I know what mushrooms I can eat, what berries I can eat, how to spot clean drinking water versus dirty, contaminated water. And there's just so much that you like learn in scouts as a kid that you take for granted. And I really notice when I bring my cousin out here, because he's like born and bred city boy. He cannot handle the wilderness. Like
Right.
he's the type of person that washes his shoes every day to make sure they're sparkling the next day.
Right.
And he does not handle the chaos of outdoors well at all. Like everything scares him, and he jumps at everything. And like it's like, what if there's a crocodile there? I'm like, dude, we're like 2,000 meters above sea level.
Right.
There's no still water or large game. Like, what crocodiles?
You know what's kicking in there is his sympathetic nervous system. And when some people do not like the feeling of being in that survival mode of coming up with these questions. What if this is that? Did you hear that? What if that was a bear? Did it? And people go through this a lot if they're not used to being out in the wilderness. And it's not that their fears are not necessarily valid. Like obviously, if someone's scared of being bitten by a shark when they're up the mountain, then obviously there's a complete ignorance into what a shark is. But if someone's, in bear country with me foraging for mushrooms and we haven't been making noise in a while, and they're like, shouldn't we be making some noise? It's like, there is some reasonable survival mechanisms that should be at play when you're in some of these more dangerous environments. Putting the very secure human being into a feeling of, being not being on the edge of survival, but at least having a bit of that danger is exciting.
I think I would argue it's almost necessary. I know how to, a whole swathe of survival techniques. Like you send me into the bush with a knife, I'll be okay.
Right.
And none of those skills have any application in the real world other than taste. I can tell you, hunting, cooking, and killing and cooking your own meat. It's the best spice. It's like nothing tastes better. Like no store-bought meat will ever come close.
Yeah.
But other than that practical application, it's zero application in the real world. But I tell you something, having the confidence to know that no matter what, if you give me a knife, I can go anywhere in the wild and I'll be fine. That gives me the confidence to be an entrepreneur. to go risk it all
100%.
and lose everything.
I was going to say something.
I was wondering when you were going to get to that. That's the wax on, wax off, paint the fence stuff, man.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to mention about people who live in the city, that same feeling that we're talking about getting that feeling out in the wild, having your survival tested a little bit, getting a taste of that. I think people get that same thing. I think it's processed the same, but it's obviously a much different version of it. Going out to the club, going out to the bar. There is an element when people walk into like a busy bar, busy club where people are rubbing up against each other, dancing. You see these people making other. You kind of feel like you're in the wild. The music is very loud, very different than being out in the wild where the loudness might be the birds in the trees or the raging river. But there is a stimulation. I think people are we're moving towards the same, striving for that same stimulation. I think there's a connectivity there, and the people who are living in the city need it too.
I'd agree with you, but I think that I'm sure there are experiences that approximate the sort of chaos of survival and testing yourself. I feel like the consequence for failure for small things is not the same. So, like, I mean, in a survival environment, if you don't kill that animal and if you're not successful on your hunt, you're not getting anything. And like,
right.
I purposely go do hunts on horseback on a friend's game farm, and those hunts we take enough food for 3 days, and it's like a 7-day hunt. If we don't get food on the way, we're starving.
Right.
And the consequence for failure and for fucking up is much higher, because there's no easy like medevac to a hospital. So if someone gets shot on accidents, if there's any sort of catastrophe, any mauling, because like it's big five territory, like we're out there on horseback with lions and hyenas and cheetah and all that, and we purposely set it up so that if we don't come right between the group of us, we die. And there's so much more about that experience. Like you go to the club and your objective is to bring home a chick for the night. You fail, it's no big deal. Nothing bad's gonna happen.
So relative to the survival situation that you just painted in, with going out into the woods and needing to actually find your own food, if we try to relate those things, obviously one is much more extreme from the survival aspect than the other. But if we look at the not bringing a chick home or getting turned down, let's say in front of your buddies or your friends, if we kind of try to relate those two things to the systems that they exist in, the getting turned down by a woman in front of your friends, like in that world, how bad is that compared to, starving to find food? Obviously on a biological reality level, it's nothing. There's no comparison there. But let's think about like the psychology of those two entities. Where are the similarities there? Because losing that, losing that opportunity with that woman ranks pretty high in male psychology.
I really do see your argument, but I don't know if it's compelling enough.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, like I'm just exploring because I don't know that there's any way to there is no way to equate the actual experiences, but the psychological toll, like for me thinking about it, it's like the hunt scenario seems a lot more fun, exciting, you know, and if you're striving to find more food, if you're having to start eating tree roots or bush roots or something like that because you can't find meat, it's like that's so intriguing and compelling to me, and a failure of like finding a good kill and having to essentially eat pine cones for a few days, that's still a very thrilling pursuit. But on the other side, it's like you had the thrill of the chase, but you weren't able to capitalize on the meat in the club. What, you know, in that scenario, that's, you know, you're quite demoralized for a lot of different reasons than you may be demoralized in the wilderness. But is to the biological male, is the demoralization of not being able to find your kill in the bush worse than not being able to find your kill on the dance floor?
In the bush.
In the bush.
Well, I mean, I accept that pain and suffering is relative.
Sure.
Like some of the things that I tell you from my childhood growing up in apartheid, most people will be like, "Holy shit, how did you get through that?" And the honest answer is, I didn't actually fucking notice.
Right.
Like, yes, it was wrong that I was treated that way, but the concept that it was wrong was absent in my head. So,
right.
In the moment, I was not even aware that I had been wronged.
Yeah.
That there was a better way to treat human beings. It was just like, this is life, and welcome to it. You know, it's shitty.
Yeah.
So I get that, like, someone living in America who hasn't suffered a tiny degree compared to what I've experienced, they most likely will have experienced the same level, have had the same experiential level of suffering that I've had, even though the scenarios would be strikingly different. You know, so I totally buy that. That's why I'm trying to find a way to disagree with you that's consistent, because I do agree with you, but I just don't feel like,
you know what I think this is where the naturalistic,
maybe it's just bias on my side.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think this is where the naturalistic fallacy comes in, where we want to make like a, you know, a science-based logical argument for why one is greater than the other, when we're looking at the experience, and likely we could quantify individual circumstance and look at them and be like, okay, let's say pleasure derived out of this situation was higher than pleasure derived out of this situation. I think we can do that, and that's probably what we're wrestling with here, like, because, you know, trying to describe, and Joe Rogan struggles with this as well when he talks to the anti-hunters that come on his show, trying to describe the feelings and the experiences of hunting, and where the other person sitting across from them is looking at him like a murderer. You know?
But that is, I was about to agree with you, just to say that, like, you know, I'm exporting someone that's only comfortable in the city into a rural environment and seeing how they fail. But equally so, if you took someone that's only grown up in a rural environment,
sure,
you put them in a city environment, they're going to fail in the same way. However, you just raised something where I'm going to make my last stand.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about killing something. I'm sure you've experienced on your first kill. Like, I mean, I was fairly well prepared my first kill. I knew I wanted to make the transition from eating store-bought meat to eating organic meat that I had a personal hand in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wasn't going to eat meat. I think to eat meat if you're not prepared to kill an animal is immoral. And there's something about knowing that you're prepared to take that step. That's there's no really way to know that you can do it until you're in that situation and you're trying to do it.
Right.
I'm not sure how to put it, but there doesn't be something unique specifically about killing another being that, for lack of a better word, you respect more than an insect.
Or you know, and this is where the slippery slope comes in, because you know the people who are against killing animals, they tend to be okay with killing mice, but then when we start getting up to rabbits, we start tugging on the heartstrings. So one thing I really want to look at is I want to do an episode on trophy hunting, because I have some strong defenses for trophy hunting, but I think we'll
I've got all the strong defenses as well.
Yeah, yeah.
South Africa is a
Conservation
paragon of what trophy hunting can do. Like there were so many species in South Africa that had been hunted to the brink of extinction, and it was purely because of private game farm owners taking up sports hunting and purposely breeding the animals that they were brought back from the brink of extinction. And even now we're seeing a lot of success with rhinos in South Africa, because when we heard of the last white rhino in Africa being killed in Kenya, we thought, okay, no, this is a big problem. We've always had this problem of rhino horn being poached in South Africa, and the numbers are just going down up until 2014, 2015.
Right.
And I've got an interesting anecdote, but I'll tell you afterwards. But we made this shift in policy. We made it legal to sell rhino horn. Now, private game farm owners are buying and breeding rhino.
Yeah.
And the problem with rhino poachers is they'll kill the animal and take the horn all the way from the stem, and then like just waste the meat, you know.
Yeah.
But when what these farmers are doing is that they're shaving the rhino horn off the animal, little bit by little bit as it grows. And like a rhino can fully regrow its horn, often bigger and stronger after 2 years.
Right.
So we found the cure to the extinction, the very, very close pending extinction of the rhino, is the basically trophy hunting with rhinos, because the horn is the trophy.
So you know, and elephant hunting has there's a lot of parallels to what you were just talking about there. There's a lot to talk about, like the overpopulation of elephants in certain parts of Africa as well, where they've really benefited by the export of trophy hunting for certain areas.
That's the thing, like a lot of environmentalists, and for the time being I'm going to shove animal rights activists into that bracket. They operate on this primary fallacy that there's a natural balance to the world, that if humanity just treated it that way, it would stay perfectly balanced and nothing would change. It's just such a bad premise.
It really is.
And these just so many poor solutions.
Even like fruit trees, like we've seen chimps have a hard time manage the rations of fruit and nut trees, and they're arguably the second most intelligent species on this planet.
Tell me about it. I've got a whole fruit orchard on my property, but we've got a troop of protected mango monkeys that runs through the fruit orchard.
Yeah,
and
there's
I can't get fruit to save my fucking life.
Yeah,
like, they come just as it's like budded and still unripe, and they'll literally go through an entire fucking pear bush, not a pear bush, a peach tree, and like there's like literally like 100 peaches in the peach tree, 10 of them are ripe. They'll bite the 90 that aren't ripe, go, oh, this isn't ripe, spit it and chuck on the ground, and keep chomping until they find the right ones. And then I come to this graveyard of half-eaten, unripe fruit.
Yeah,
it's super frustrating.
This naturalistic fallacy of, you gotta go with the balance of nature. It's like that's not at all how nature works. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Like this idea of understanding balance. This is an abstract concept. That takes a lot, a lot of thinking, a lot of brain capacity. But
we're a bit off topic here, and we got a new visitor. Welcome, David.
Hey, you guys doing?
Doing very well. Did you join us to the YouTube chat?
He was breaking up a little bit
there. Am I breaking up?
There we go. We can hear you now.
Okay.
But yeah, welcome to the marijuana talk. Anything?
Yeah, I thought it was. No, I thought it was interesting. You guys talking about hunting. It made me think of a recent debate I heard on veganism, and I grew up hunting too as well. And I've always made pretty great arguments for hunting, especially, in the south of the United States, for example. If hunters didn't buy up a lot of the private land, and keeping some of the old forests, paper companies do, for example. And it destroys those forests. So to me, there's a lot of great arguments for hunters, but what I wanted to get to, and what Travis was kind of saying, is that maybe humans just haven't evolved past the point of needing to hunt. I mean, maybe that is something ingrained with us to be tribal in that extent. That search for something, and that you guys gave a great example of, would you rather kill a deer that's just tied up?
So David, there is no end goal in evolution for humanity, right? Like there's no more evolved or less evolved. There's just evolution. So to think that to think that the idea of not needing hunting anymore would be like a more evolved thing, I think is incorrect.
I mean, that's a really interesting argument. That's interesting.
Isn't that a definition of life, though? To manage your own energy storage? Like we don't consider computers alive because we feed them their energy.
It actually
is. Everything we consider alive managed to find and ingest the required energy to maintain its cognitive abilities, right?
They actually no, because we got viruses bacteria desired, where bacteria is really bad at that, right? It tends to eat itself to death. Oh, we lost him. But yeah, we can look at a lot of examples.
If are we more evolved if we no longer have the desire to hunt? I think is kind of what you were getting at.
Yeah.
And I think in all honesty, and I pose this. I'm not a vegan. I love meat, but I pose question to my and ultimately, you could get food exactly the same way we do now, but whether it's through lab creation or whether it's through some other process, but it gives you the same nutritional value. It gives you the same taste. For example, you can go buy a hot dog. It looks like a hot dog, whatever the case may be. If that is available to you, would you then prefer the option of killing another life form, whether it's an animal. And so I would say yes to you that you are more evolved if you can make that ethical decision to no longer need to kill anything to achieve same food value.
That's not an evolution argument. That's a taste argument. So that's a subjective moral argument you're making, but it's not. It's like any way you slice it, there is no more evolved or less evolved. You can look at
fair
things
enough.
like
You
can look at things like brains and say that that animal has a higher intellect capacity than the other.
That's a matter of you either are, at the level. So it comes down to not a more evolved, but a cognitive decision on killing life forms is unethical.
You're breaking up a lot there, David. But
okay. I'm gonna try a different laptop, guys, because this was happening on this laptop before.
Oh, okay.
Cool. So Travis, I think I could make a decent argument for taste being an evolutionary function. There is obviously a short circuit with addictive substances like sugar.
Sure.
That does mess with the mechanism. I'll concede that. But largely, our sense of smell is how we determine, for the most part, if something is edible or not, and that the sense of smell is linked to taste. So, like when meat smells like rotting and off, it smells bad to us because we know there's bacteria in that if we ate it, we die.
Sure.
So that's why it smells bad.
Yeah.
So. And I know one of the reasons meat tastes so good to us is because it is very nutrient dense. It's one of the most nutrient dense foods we eat.
And also
when they talk about these superfoods like chia seeds and all that crap, that it's got a high nutrient content compared to other vegetables, but it pales in comparison to meat.
But our jaws, as apes, we get a lot of good endorphin release from using our jaws, because we are a chomp jaw animal, and eating these little seeds and not chewing on meat, not chewing on fruits enough. It's there's a lot of biological benefit to using your jaw and to chewing, so that factors in as well. It feels good.
Is that why you
chewing.
keep gabbing on, Dad?
Gab. Yeah, we like running our chops.
But once again, I taste that. I draw that back to taste. Is one of the big factors in taste is texture. So
sure, yeah.
We enjoy certain textures, and I would argue that we've evolved to enjoy them because our subconscious has picked up like something like milk, like the subconscious knows, okay, body needs calcium, and it goes, okay, what has the conscious brain experienced that we know converts into calcium in the body, and like goes, okay, cool, we drank milk's got a little bit of calcium in it, so body's deficient of calcium, tell conscious mind you have a desire to drink milk.
Well, we don't.
I think that's how it's like evolved.
Yeah, the only difference there, deniability, is we don't have an understanding. Like if we're talking about primitive human, we don't have an understanding about calcium, or like we do understand that some foods make us feel better than other foods, and then we also have this weird thing where a person will come along that just keeps regurgitating every time they taste milk because they can't stand the taste of it, or they can't stand. So we have these weird anomalies in our subjective taste.
No, but to stick with what I'm saying, taste is obviously subjective, but I would argue that it's subjective because the person is different.
Sure. Yeah.
I think
definitely.
What you were trying to say is that your body knows what it needs, and you only used calcium as an example so that you had something to tie to.
Although,
your body just knows that I need this chemical, and you happen to eat a banana one day, and you're like, oh, more of that. I don't know what it is, but that's what I needed. Eat more of that.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what he was trying to illustrate.
Yeah.
Not that the body knows.
Although,
calcium, this thing I've never
and
seen before. I need it. How do I get it?
And they say the best spice, and this is 100% true. The best spice is hunger. It's because like it tastes so much better when you need it so much more.
Sure, I was gonna mention that we have to take into consideration that survivability, number one, like when we're talking about our diets and how they evolved. So basically, what's around? Oh, okay, we got roots, we got berries, we got, sugar cane. Maybe we got a few things that we can build things out of, but. And also, like in some of those situations, like you were saying, deniability, we don't necessarily have the choice. In some situations, you have to eat what's available.
You are disagreeing with my main claim. Like I'm saying that it's completely driven from the unconscious mind, the lizard brain, as it were. And there's a poor communication interpretive mechanism between the conscious and the subconscious, and it like so I've had experiences, like I can tell you the best taste experience. If you're a foodie and you want the best tasting thing you've ever had in your entire life, go on a 7-day hunt without enough food and shoot something on day 6 after you've been starving for a couple of days.
It'll be the best meal you've ever had.
Cut that liver out, fresh, warm, and chomp into that. It's literally the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. Like I've eaten at some of the best Michelin star restaurants on the planet.
Yeah.
Like after 3 days of hunger, fresh raw liver from a freshly killed animal, best taste in the world.
So
I'm pretty sure the greatest meal ever made is an MRE.
What the hell is that? MRE?
Military rations.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to post. I posted in the YouTube chat, since we were talking about diet, and in the chat on Discord here, the evolution of diet from National Geographic. They go through kind of the entire story of humanity based on the evidence we've collected, and it's quite fascinating. Like it'll go through cooking habits and how we've really multi-purposed some things in so many different ways to satisfy our omnivorous the fact that we are omnivores drove us so much into tasting and testing and creating and cooking and all of these different ways that you can skin a cat when it comes to one food source that you might have, or one really plentiful food source that you have. And then you'll see in some like the Inuit of Greenland survive for generations eating almost nothing but meat in a landscape too harsh for most plants. Today's markets offer a variety, but a taste for meat persists. So you're going to find some cultural pockets where it really did shape the gut and the jaw and the these our motor systems to be engaging with food in a certain way, and we have that drive. And I think that all kind of stems from or it is related in some way to the motor drive to want to go out and get your food, get your meat, even in places where there aren't stores to do that. You actually have to go get it. You have to hunt it.
And I think, and maybe this is why it's wrong to go the taste route, even though I think I can make a consistent argument for it. It does lead you down this like, well, we know better now, and we have better farming techniques now, and we can choose to go a full vegan diet. And
I think some can.
They make it a moral argument, but I find it an immoral argument on almost every level of analysis. So let's just take the first one, where the claim is made that you could with the right combination of vegetables, live a fully nutritious life. And I have a counter to that, but let's just say if that were true, when you look at the farming level, not all of these combinations grow in the same areas.
Right.
To do that on a level where 7 billion people live off of this highly nutritious vegan diet would lead to the deforestation of most of the planet.
The vegan,
and
this vegan thing is just nonsense.
Fuels,
yeah,
the increase in fossil fuels and transport, all of that, it's a complete nightmare.
Yeah, and it's also denying it's also denying the fact that we are omnivorous. Like it's just completely anti what we are. And I find the vegans just are making an argument that they don't like what we are. And I'm like, well, you are it. You want to live, the few people that can survive, through this diet, they feel, this virtuous feeling they get gives them enough charge to survive in it. But
so let me come at the other level argument that's going to completely smash thinking what you just said is reasonable, because at the base of it, right, the organ in the body that consumes 80% of your protein intake is your brain. The human IQ has exceeded rapidly since we started cooking and eating meat. It is nutrient dense. It is literally brain juice. We know through recent fecal matter transplant studies where they take poo from someone else and implant it into another person, either through capsules that you swallow or through an anal injection. And what they found through this research is that it's inaccurate to say human beings live off of food, because what is precisely happening is your mouth is chewing it up into a pulp, and then the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is further weakening the bonds of the food, and then it goes into your intestine, and then the gut bacteria composition in your intestine, that bacteria eats that slush, and then they in turn process that and shit out nutrients that get absorbed into your bloodstream. So it's more accurate to say we live off the shit of bacteria. And it's quite interesting with fecal matter transplant, they've been able to take poo from fat people and poo from thin people and swap it. And on exactly the same diet, exactly the same health regime, the thin people get fat and the fat people get thin, because the bacteria is dealing with it in a different way. And I mean, it started as a sort of a cure to like knowing gut and gut diseases, but they've realized through this research and the study that the bacteria in your gut that eat meat protein, their nutrient shit is what our brain needs to think and develop.
Right.
So when people have this experience of vegans being a little bit crazy and like not altogether there, they're not like wrong on a biological argument level, because what these people are doing is they are starving their brains.
Right.
And there's a lot of, and like this, I mean, there's still like more research being done into it, but the theory that they're researching now is that what vegans are doing is, by not eating meat, is the bacteria that process that meat protein, they get starved in your gut and they die out. And they're estimating roughly a 5-year period for this. So what's happening is people are going vegan, and because they're engaging in too much gluttony, the lack of nutrition from veganism balances the system out, and they initially feel healthier because they've been engaged in gluttony, and now they're going to starvation.
Right.
And that like feeling of healthiness will last until your excess reserves built up from gluttony will be depleted.
Yeah, and not to mention one. I just posted the risks of veganism. This is actually quite a good article from Clean Eating Kitchen. There is a disorder, an eating disorder. Orthorexia is a type of eating disorder that is defined by an overfixation on healthy eating patterns. This is one of the. It can result in over restriction, obsession, and other serious eating disorders. at least one study found that vegans and vegetarians tended to display orthorexic eating patterns, and most eating disorder specialists do not recommend restrictive diets such as veganism or vegetarianism for people trying to recover from an eating disorder such as orthorexia. So there's a fundamental reason why doctors, MDs, are not prescribing vegetarianism or veganism as an answer to diet. The omnivore is at their healthiest when they have a balanced diet, as outlined by most countries. Will on their website, talking about diet, they will show you the balanced diet chart, and it's not, they just didn't pull that out of their ass. This was based on demonstration and the evolution of us as omnivores, of our diets.
And there's another like really worrying argument on the veganism side at a farming level. Like from a farming perspective, yeah, they make all this stuff about all this hoo-ha about like cows, and yes, I'll agree with them 100%. Monoculture farming is wrong, and it's damaging the planet, and it's unsustainable.
Yeah, and literally no one I've ever met or talked to, read, listened to ever in my entire life, please show me a demonstration, if this does exist, of anyone that is okay with an animal being tortured.
Yeah,
I've never caught, this is a myth that has been created, that there's some kind of evil entity, people out there that are okay with animals being tortured. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And the fact is, your meat tastes better if it's not tortured and if it's given a good healthy life. I think it's like
any farmer knows this.
Yeah, like if you're in a free market competition, which food is, and you're trying to put the best quality, best tasting beef out there, go to Japan. It's Japanese A5 Wagyu. They fucking massage the cows, and they feed it wine, and these cows live the most luxurious lifestyle possible to get the best taste possible. So taste is the answer. So stop telling meat eaters that taste is the wrong thing, because true meat eaters, the ones that want the best quality meat, want the best quality life for the animal as well.
Yeah, I've never, like I said, I've had thousands of conversations about this topic. I have never met a hardcore meat eater, hunter, trophy hunting dude or woman out there that has ever been okay with the suffering of an animal. It just doesn't exist.
When you go hunting, the joy is in getting that clean shot.
Yeah, 100%. And if you don't get a clean shot, you end that life very quickly. Like
and the meat tastes worse, because if you get that clean shot, there's no adrenaline in the blood. There's no fear hormones in the blood. Fear hormones and adrenaline they sour the meat. So you want that clean kill from a taste perspective, from a suffering perspective. There just is no argument for like abusing animals.
Yeah, so Soldier of Science says, so there was just an article of a, I'm going to see if I can find what he's talking about, of a pig farmer that killed hundreds of pigs by letting the temperature raise, and it took hours for the pigs to die. Now, was this due to negligence, or did he do it on purpose? I'm going to look. Let's see.
Negligence or purpose, that's just stupid. That's ruined meat.
That's just, you're just an idiot that ruined meat. And again, you have to demonstrate that he was okay with the suffering, right? I was like farms, because that's what we're talking about. Excruciating.
I promise you, if that guy sold that meat, no one would ever buy his meat again.
No one wants that meat. No one wants it. Yeah. Commercially worthless due to the coronavirus pandemic. This is true. So video footage of dead pigs being removed from an Iowa Select Farms barn on May 19th after ventilation shutdown was used to depopulate thousands. Let's see. This was produced. This came out May 29th of 2020. Hidden video and whistleblower revealed, and let's see if there's any evidence that that's exactly what happened. Prompted both. Okay, I don't see any. The whistleblower told Intercept. So I see claims. They shut the pit pans off, shut the ventilation fans off, and heat up the building. That's what the plan is. It's horrific as it is. So I see claims. Let's see where the evidence is. Okay, now it's talking about profit levels. Yeah, I don't see any evidence. We have evidence of dead pigs. Discovering that investigators had obtained video footage. The company tried to preempt this reporting by admitting its use of VSD in an article published last week. The thought of euthanizing entire herds is devastating, a company spokesperson said. Sadly, Iowa Select has been forced to make this heartbreaking decision for some of its herd. To another industry outlet, the company announced in a statement that they have been forced to euthanize some of its herd. Okay. Euthanizing not the pain endured by the animals that were exterminated, but the suffering of company executives. It's been hard for us to come to those decisions. Okay. Really bad PR. Let's see. I'd like to see the whole press release, but they don't link to it. See, that's usually a sign of bad journalism.
It's soldier of science. What's your purpose in raising it? Like, I mean, I'd agree with you. There's a lot of animal suffering, and you generally find it in cheap markets that don't care about the taste of their food.
Right.
100% agree with you there.
Right, but let's underline the thing we were talking about is people that are okay with the suffering of animals. So this mismanagement of this gas chamber type effect on these pigs, if it did in fact occur, that's not evidence that they are okay with the suffering of animals. It's just evidence of them being retarded. Like,
yeah,
and if there's a law, yeah,
stupid people exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think about the vegan arguments, and I just can't find any level where it's can possibly be accepted. It's a journal of malnourishment.
The best way I can describe it is a group of people look at humanity and they don't like what humanity is, an omnivorous ape. They don't like what omnivorous apes do and eat and the way they can act, and they want to change that. But I'm sorry, it's if you try to, if you try to go into a chimp culture and give them like a synthetic version to save the fruit trees, a synthetic version of fruit, that's essentially what the vegans argue human beings can do. And I'm not convinced that any human beings outside of this very small portion of the population that cannot suffer from deep levels of psychological issues from drastically changing their diet like this, because they get such a virtue pump up by feeling virtuous and feeling like they're doing something really good. And this is why I think veganism contains that cult-like behavior, because we start seeing this kind of behavior and I just read for you guys, one of the things that you have to look out for are things like orthorexia. Is a type of eating disorder that is defined by overfixation on healthy eating patterns. Think of the behavioral elements that can be born out of that. Radical statements, radicalization, radical approaches to shutting down a hobby farmer because they don't they don't agree with how they're farming, even though they're farming under the law. What you really should be doing, if you were thinking rationally, is you would be fighting for new policy. But no, you're marching like a radical to this person's farm that they own, trying to shut down their farm when really they're farming within the law of the land. This is not rational behavior.
There's a great quote from John Cleese. He's a comedian that did.
Yeah. John Cleese is amazing.
He said, I'll try to get this right. Ultimately, it's going to be paraphrasing. He said something to the degree that when people are not in control of their own emotions, they seek to exert control on those around them.
100%. That's very, very wise statement.
Yeah. I think I honestly think that's what is happening with vegans. Yeah. They're conducting something that initially made them feel good, but over the long term is starving them of necessary nutrients for correct brain function.
And they feel bad about it. Like, I've met so many ex-vegans, man, that are just like, yeah, I still feel bad for what I'm doing, but I can't help it. I need meat. I'm like, well, fuck yeah, you do. You're a fucking omnivore. Stop feeling bad about what you are. And don't let these people tell you you're bad for being the way you are.
Look, one of the things I will say, because I had a long look at the sort of ethics around eating meat, and as I said earlier, I came to the conclusion that it's immoral to eat meat unless you can kill an animal yourself and gut it and like harvest its meat. If you can do that, then you can eat meat. If you can't do that, then and like the level I say it's moral on is like not like I'm claiming it's immoral. I'm saying that I think everyone finds this immoral, and I think what we're experiencing with this trend of veganism is people that have been eating meat without killing it themselves, and it's causing a moral conflict, and they're having an existential crisis over it. And I think the obvious solution, is to go and kill an animal yourself and learn to harvest it and come to understand the exchange that is happening for you to receive the nutrition of meat.
Yeah, so there is a problem if we move away from large well-operated farms, because we don't tend to have the wild population to sustain a mass level of human hunting. So
I'd agree, but like it's not like here in South Africa, we had a part of our educational program under the apartheid government, because they're largely like a government of farmers, and they had a lot of shared beliefs of killing your own meat. All children at the age of 8 were forced to go to a cattle farm and watch a farmer slaughter a cow, and you would watch it, then butcher it, and see where the meat came from, and understand the processes and what's going on. And I suppose today's understanding of education would say that's traumatizing children, but my experience is much different. It informed me where my meat came from, and ultimately it led me to the conclusion that unless I was willing to kill an animal myself, I was acting immorally. When you act immorally, you invite psychological suffering, and I think that's what people are experiencing. And I'm not saying you have to go out and kill every animal you eat, but at least go do it once so that you can understand the exchange of life that is happening on your behalf, and you can be humbled by it and come to respect it. And I'd say if people are having an issue with eating meat and they need to, I honestly think the best way over it is to go kill and butcher your own animal. You can start small. You can start with a fish and then a chicken. And you can work your way up. You don't need to go fucking kill a deer off the bat, you know.
Yeah.
But slowly introduce yourself to the process. And like a lot of people don't have an issue with eating fish because most people are prepared to kill and eat a fish. Whether they've actually done it for this meal or not, they are mentally prepared to do that. But I think morally people have a different thing when it comes to red meat.
Well, and I think it's this weird optic thing with people because they look at a fish and they're like, well, it just looks dumb, right? But then they look at like what they would consider to be the majesty of an elk, where when I look at an elk and I find elk beautiful, but I also look at them as like, you know, I think about my mouth starts salivating thinking about like a perfectly done mustard roast, elk roast, like it. So a lot of it has to do with people not understanding what certain animals can become as well. But I think we need to do an episode on hunting. I think that would be great.
Yeah, we can definitely do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna end the YouTube stream there, but yeah, I really enjoyed this today.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I wish we got a bit more pushback on the marijuana, but I liked where the conversation went.
It's hard it's a hard thing to push back on, man.
It's the internet. You gotta have the hopeful expectation that like someone that violently disagrees with you is going to join the conversation.
Well, actually, there was one comment I'll quickly read before we shut down here. There was one comment that says something about weed is bad. Oh, I think they deleted it. Yeah.
Maybe they stayed to listen and decided it was
Oh, here it is. Yeah, someone by the name of Atheist Planning. That's funny. Atheist Planning says smoking pot is bad for your health.
Oh wow, euthanasia. I'm not an Aussie. I'm South African. Please never commit that hate crime against me again.
I saw that. I did clarify. I didn't want them to throw you into that into that dirty Australian bundle.
Can't be paid with criminals.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and I hope we see you next Saturday.
Cool. We'll do. Have a good one.
Thanks, dude.
Cheers.
Yeah, you too. All right, thanks, guys. That was Pangburn Philosopher Deniability from South Africa tuning in for a conversation. Yeah, we talked about marijuana today. We got into a bit of veganism and hunting at the end there. We will do an episode on that. Make sure you guys drop a like on this video when you do come by it. YouTube hates us, so they won't show this to any of our subscribers. But if you do happen to see it, please drop a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, so this has been the Pangburn Hangout, and let art and science inspire.